Justin.
Welcome to a. It's a little giggly, but it's trust us. It's a somber handsome hour discussing the life and legacy of Joe Tiller, and but we're doing it over alcohol, and I think that's appropriate because a couple weeks ago we were doing that in celebration because and what were we doing for the majority of that? We were comparing things to 1997. Right?
Yep. Keeps coming back over and over. When it comes to Purdue, it's kind of natural. So Michael, before we dig too deep in, and I like doing this just because we make fun of our oldness pretty often, right? We talk about, you guys make fun of us, we make fun of it as well.
You guys, the listeners should really see how Dowd tries to use Voxer. It's
fantastic.
It's fantastic.
It's so good. It's so good. It's so bad. And Voxer is about as basic as you can get. It's just a button. Just record, or you push something, or you type.
We'll get there one day.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard for me. But let's do this. Let's start from square one. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to tell you guys when Joe Tiller was hired. Okay, and Jay and I were in a similar situation. I lived in Tarkington Hall. I was an RA, and I was coming off of the awful Jim Toledo final season. Jay and I actually enjoyed that together. It was the first time. Is that right? No, second time I shaved my head, and I shaved my head, and I wrote fire in black, face paint on my head. And my buddy Tim, who is one of the original founders of Boiled Sports, who is not pictured tonight.
No,
he wrote Toledo on his head, and
that's commitment.
And, yes, and Jay was there with us. Yeah. Okay, that. And that was for the Michigan game, which they won, which is funny. Toledo resigned after the game, after the win. Okay, so in the wake of that, I can say that I was pretty down in the dumps about the football program. I kind of figured, well, this is what we are. Purdue is what we are. Bob Davie had already rejected us.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. Absolutely.
Pretty lousy place, right? I'm a first semester senior. Jay is a first semester junior at that point. Things are in the can, We are what we are. And then Joe Tiller enters from Wyoming, kind of quietly, I would say. And I don't think anybody thought much of it. What were you doing at that point, Hank?
So I was 13.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you for awesome. That. That's really good. Makes me feel good about
pretty myself. Intense football fan, right?
Yep.
But in my house, we would watch Purdue because we had to, and it is our destiny to suffer. And in Notre Dame to watch a competent football team.
That's horrible. That's horrible.
Well, I mean, they were on NBC.
I get it. It was easy access.
Easy access. And you wanted some joy, even if it wasn't joy that you could partake in personally.
Kind of a fake joy, right?
Fake joy. At least you could see that it was possible for other fan bases to experience joy.
Someplace there were good things happening, is what you're saying.
Not even that far away. Not even that far away.
Not really.
It might as well have been on the other side of the sun.
And yet a universe away at the same time.
No, but I mean, those Purdue teams were just bad. I mean, they were awful to watch. It was like Hazel. Bad.
It was, the games were drudgery, right? Even though they were not as bad as the Hazel teams because they were kind of plodding, right? Plotting to their own demise, just steadily.
Like scoring 12, 13 points a game.
Exactly. Somehow scoring 11 to 13 points in a game.
I will remind you guys of the fact that it was not like the Hazel era in that sense with the 12 or 13 points a game. Because remember when Mike Allstott was there, which was, probably among my all-time favorite Boilermakers, he
absolutely
played MAC teams. They would beat the crap out of them. And when they played IU, they
were big.
Whip on them. Not every year, but they were big. Right, so they would put up points against bad teams, but the difference was those Toledo teams. There was no chance they were beating Notre Dame. There was no chance they were beating Michigan.
You didn't even think they were going to, going into the.
It just you knew right. It was foregone those things, and the biggest thing that Tiller did was he made us all believe, and made the team believe. It didn't really matter what we believed, but he made everyone around believe that they could beat anybody. And I was reminded of this watching one of the clips from the night they clinched the Rose Bowl and some of the locker room stuff. He had up on the in between each locker, it said expect to win.
Yeah.
He had that up in between each locker. And it was funny as I wrote that in my post, I said he taught us to expect to compete, to expect to win. Yeah. And I didn't do that remembering that. I saw that later. But what that tells me, it's not like I'm some sort of brilliant, I didn't pull that. I pulled that because he ingrained that in us. That was his thing, expect to win.
Mm-hmm. Well, he got the program to a point where you could expect a bowl, right? Like that was the baseline, is that you were going to get 7 wins. And then maybe like something like in 2004 or, a couple 2001, I think was the other, like he had a couple teams that you knew were like really special.
Right. Well,
and that was not something that Purdue had ever.
I mean, maybe in the 60s. But,
but the one Rose Bowl team with Bob Greasy.
Went to Peach Bowl in '84. They went to a Blue Bonnet Bowl in 81, 80, right?
80 or 81.
But we're talking years between.
We need Dave K in here to talk about that.
Yeah, no, and that was it. They hadn't gone in recent history.
Right.
They hadn't gone to any bowl games. Right. And overnight he changed their. And I still, you look back and there was nowhere near the level of coverage in the mid 90s as there is today, right? So like we didn't, going into that. And then you look at Bowling Green, right? Wasn't it at Bowling Green? It was a road game. I know that.
It was Toledo.
Before they came home and beat
first game.
Toledo.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, whatever it was, they lost to a team they should have on the road. And it was like, more of the
same. The irony, I think, is Tiller graduated from Toledo. And he had nothing to do with that schedule. Nothing to do with that schedule. And they went into that game, and I mean the players' account of it is awesome because they said they expected to be just ripped open after losing that game at Toledo. And he came in the locker room and said, "All right, guys, we've got some work to do. We're going to win next week in Notre Dame."
And what did they do? They went out and they beat Notre Dame.
That game, I was at that game.
Notre Dame. So awesome.
Yep. And Jay, you were already off campus, correct? Or were you at?
No. 97? No, I was not gone yet. 97. Okay, fall 97 was my semester out of Purdue. I don't know if you recall that.
You were transitioning.
I was enrolled at the County College of Morris in Randolph, New Jersey.
Right.
For that semester, then I came back in the spring.
The Fighting Morris.
So I can tell you my situation there. So this is fun, a fun timeline. At this point, Michael is almost 14.
Not yet a man.
Not yet a man.
Still a boy.
Yeah, exactly. Not a boy. I don't know that song. But I can tell you what was happening with me is I was interviewing for jobs because I was trying to become a man. And so I had interviewed a couple places, and I came to that Notre Dame game with a buddy of mine, and I had to get back to Indianapolis at a certain time for an event. So Purdue was up in the third quarter, and they're up in the fourth quarter. I'm like, holy crap, they're going to beat Notre Dame, and I'm going to have to leave. Sure enough, I did not see the clock hit 000. I was in the stadium the entire our pal Aneesh has joined the call. So I don't even want to talk about where Aneesh was in the fall of 97 because that'll make me even more sad. But so I didn't see the end of the game. I listened to it. I can remember I was pulling into the parking lot of this place, this event. It was a retreat, a Christian retreat. And I was literally banging on the roof of my car and yelling, and it was supposed to be a quiet place. And I was like, yeah! Because I could not believe that Purdue beat Notre Dame in the wake of losing to Toledo. And I got to tell you, so I wrote Tiller a letter, and I just told my son, LBD, this story. I wrote Tiller a letter that week just saying thank you because
one of my favorite stories. I remember this.
So I wrote him a letter. I typed it out, sent it to him. Like a real letter, not an email. And
you got yourself a pigeon.
What'd you say? I got a pigeon. Exactly. A really trained pigeon who knew the way to Lafayette, which is awesome. Because Gina, pigeon. my wife was still on campus. So the pigeon knew the way because I'd written other letters and the little pigeon. What happened to that boy? So I sent the piece of paper. That's what we used to do, Aneesh. We transcribe notes on paper, on parchment.
Fucking parchment.
What is this?
My day.
Dip your quill in a
yes,
well.
in a feather. Dip your quill in the company ink.
Like scratch a rock.
It has been a fortnight since I last felt your graceful touch.
My dearest Gina.
My dearest
The coldest winters of West Lafayette can't freeze my heart in its love for you.
Say, shut up. Shut up.
So anyway, so I sent the letter, a real letter to Joe Tiller. And no joke, within that week, Joe Tiller had written me back a note. And I have it in my basement framed. He sent me back a note on Purdue football card. It's in my basement. Jay has seen it. I think
inform you we're not going to be offering you a scholarship.
Exactly. Sorry. Your eligibility is expired. And it just said, Ryan, thanks for the note. Thanks for being there all these years. Real simple. Keep the faith, Joe Tiller.
I would frame that too. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
And I can tell you that when I received it, I thought it was no more than one game. I'm not kidding. I was just like, thank God we beat Notre Dame. That was it. That was enough for me, right? But they won a little more. They won a few more games under Tiller. Thank God. So I can tell you guys, Jay and I have talked about this on and off all day. I don't know if Aneesh can hear me right now because he pulled his headphones off.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I was battling tears all freaking day.
Well,
as if I had lost my brother, not my uncle. I said my uncle in that video. I choked up 3 or 4 times, and I was like, I don't really need that to be on tape. There's no. I just kind of look like
really weird. It's really weird how that works, right? Because we're all rational adults. We don't cry when Purdue loses a tournament game, right?
What?
But like we're not supposed, but we are emotionally invested in the outcome of Purdue sports, right? But you never expect to feel like you feel stupid. It's like it's really childish when like a guy that you've never met, it like dies, like, and of all, by all accounts, it was natural causes, right? It's not, it wasn't tragic other than, his family obviously lost a very near and dear loved one. But it feels stupid to feel like, to feel this like emotional like void, because it's like, I mean, like you put it really well, Dowd, in the video. It was like Purdue feels like a family, like a lot more than I think a good amount of programs. And like Tiller was the one, and I'm sure you guys hit this earlier, but like Tiller was the one that made Purdue matter. Yeah. Right. Made the school that we chose for some reason or another, everybody for different reasons. Like Tiller kind of made it matter. And there were times football relevance before that, but he was like the guy. So it may feel stupid to feel like emotional, but I don't know. You weren't alone. And if anybody watched that video, there may have been emotions while that happened. I was in a car with 5 or 4 IU fans in it. And even all of them. So like I just walked in the door on the way back, and like even all of them, like they all knew, like they're like kind of sports fans. One of them's a diehard. The other 3 are just like kind of, and all of them knew who Joe Tiller was. Like all of them respected the hell out of Joe Tiller. They were all like sad. Like they were all like, the one diehard was like, we were talking about it like the entire ride back. But like IU fans really respected Joe Tiller. Like it was the kind of coach that even the enemy, quote, the sports enemy, right, didn't dislike.
Well, and I think that that goes back to his nickname, right? the genuine Joe
Yeah.
thing, right? Like you didn't get a sense that this was a guy that was playing a role, which is common with college coaches, right? Like there's a lot of disingenuous behavior. And this was just a guy from,
That's
Midwestern
crazy talk.
roots.
I don't believe that.
Who lived out in, Montana and Wyoming and just kind of like did his own thing. And you knew that he just didn't really care like what you thought of him, but that didn't make him a jerk. That just made him really genuine.
Yeah.
And it was the type of guy that you could respect, like even if he coached for your rival.
So here's a little peek behind the curtain for people that don't know Tiller, didn't know the many players. So the story he told was that he needed to get out to Wyoming to fish, right? Everybody heard that story over and over and over. The players and the people that went out to visit him tell a different story. They said he didn't fish. He didn't fish. Late in his life, he just didn't do it. But what he did, really interesting, his big hobby was planting trees. So he had a large ranch filled with different types of trees that he cared for as if they were delicate flowers. Like he would go out and water the trees according to whatever their needs were, their individual watering cycle. And many people said this. It wasn't just like one. I heard this over and over and over, that he just loved trees, which is really interesting. And there's a song that I love called Planting Trees that talks about the long-term ramifications. Thank you, Jay. Planting trees and the legacy that this man left. I think that's one of the things you can't argue with, right? When you talk to people about Joe Tiller's legacy at Purdue University, it's damn near impeccable. The interesting thing is that when he would come back for whatever it was, whether it was an appearance on Big Ten Network or ESPN or whatever, he would talk about his ranch out in Wyoming and how he was still fishing, but no one tells me that he fished. He was just planting trees. And I think there's something there about legacy, right? That as you're planting trees, you're actually planting a legacy, right? You're planning for the future. Joe Tiller left something greater than himself, I think. So
I love that story, and to relate it to the young folks. Mm-hmm. That reminds me of a quote from the musical Hamilton, which I listen to the soundtrack all the time. Yep. It's amazing. Yep. But there's a line at the end where Alexander Hamilton is contemplating. He's dying. He's contemplating his legacy.
For a lot of the millennials out there, they don't know who.
Our first Treasury Secretary.
Alham.
Murdered by
Alham. It's like A-Rod.
The kids call him Alham.
Yeah. But he says he's like pondering like what is a legacy, and he says a legacy is planting seeds in a garden that you never get to see. And that's what I liked about your story is this idea that Joe Tiller left more than just a Rose Bowl appearance and a couple of wins and Drew Brees and all of that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. But he left a legacy that will extend through all of Purdue football. He's the measuring stick for Purdue football here and into the future. When we talk about Brohm, we talk about, can Brohm do what Tiller did? After Brohm, there'll be another guy, and we'll still be talking about Joe Tiller. And, he's the guy that deserves the statue. He deserves the plaque. He deserves for Purdue football to run out onto Joe Tiller Field. And, I hope they do something very big for him.
It's going to be great for him
because he has earned it as much as anybody.
So that actually kind of pisses me off. Now that we're on that topic, why the hell haven't we done that before?
Well, they have
why
Joe
didn't we
Tiller,
do that when he was alive?
They have the Joe Tiller Road or Way or whatever they call it.
Okay,
not enough.
No. I mean, I agree. I agree, but I think that they have done something to. And let's not forget, I don't think he and Burke were best pals.
No.
Right. No. So I do. It's got to have something to do with it. Burke was a stubborn guy, and so was Tiller.
Well, here I can tell you, to me, there's a way to make everybody happy, to honor Joe Tiller. So here, let's take a half step back and assume that no one has checked out our Twitter feed or read up about what's happening, because I can tell you the text messages I've received from my friends have told me that no one has ever read anything that we've read or we've written, pardon me, or watched anything that I've taped.
He had one exchange tonight with a former,
and he's a great guy, but he acted as if,
and he had no idea that he My favorite line
good
was
old-
he was asking about the Boilerdowd Quickcast, and he said, "Is this a series? Can I see?"
I'm not. That really happened.
So great.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's so
Fine.
Okay, it's fine. It is
It's
fine.
fine.
It is fine. You're right.
It's
That's
fine.
let's keep our perspective. But the big thing, what I would like to see, okay, I would love, and I don't have any say, obviously, and I talked about this years ago, that I would like to see the field called Tiller Field at Ross-Ade Stadium.
That's a
Because I think those two guys are kind of yoked together by many things, right? They are within a few wins of each other. I say there's an asterisk by Tiller's wins because of the longer seasons and a couple other things. Mollenkopf accomplished it. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know it's too soon, but I you guys know I'm fond of Tiller. I mean,
Well,
but
Mollenkopf
I
played
think,
what 10 game seasons or something like that. It was,
right, 8 to 10.
was
I mean,
less,
it was
8 to
a
10,
different
right.
era. It was a different era.
Right.
So it's like
Absolutely.
Curtis Painter taking Drew Brees records. You're like, come on. You know that, right?
Except those were like 10 years apart, not 30. But
Well,
okay.
so my thing
Well-
is that this is kind of my pet peeve for all of these like remembrance pieces that happen whenever anybody of any kind of significance dies, is
Mhm.
that they were never. You could have said all this when Prince was alive. You know, you could have said all this when David Bowie was alive, but you waited until he died
Tupac.
before you honored him. Well, Tupac's still alive. We all know that.
Yeah, he's in Colorado
Yeah,
Springs.
exactly.
Yeah.
But
Colorado Springs.
Yeah, I saw him. That's why I say that. It's weird. He's working at Howard
But
Johnson, which is bizarre.
To me, it's just like no matter what
Yeah, you played
happens, it like during Purdue's like future in football,
Mhm.
like Joe Tiller's always going to be the guy. You know, in the modern era, Joe Tiller was always going to be the guy. So why didn't they unveil a statue of him beforehand? Why didn't they?
Because Morgan Burke was there.
Yeah, it took them a while for that to be okay, because the end of the Tiller era was not pretty.
No, it wasn't.
He was
And we
pretty
all
pissed.
know it wasn't pretty,
And,
right?
and he was just as stubborn as Burke, right? So you
Sure.
got two stubborn
Which is
people,
awesome.
which is
Right.
great, when you're, because you're Team Tiller here.
Yeah.
But it took a while, and it was really only in the last couple of years, maybe even after the Danny Hope era, that you started to see Tiller a little bit more around the program.
Mhm.
Well, so
So-
even during the Hope, well, so that's the thing, is that I don't know if Hope was ever Tiller's guy. Tiller always wanted Spack to be
Right.
his successor,
Hope
right?
was-
And
one of
that's
Tiller's
documented. That's
guys.
not opinion, right?
But
Yeah.
he
I
wasn't.
mean, like
the guy
Hope,
he wanted.
yeah, exactly. Hope was clearly the number two that
Tiller
Joe-
liked Hope, right?
Tiller loved
Right.
Hope. I mean,
He
like
loved-
there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Tiller.
There's a
loved
great picture, by the way, of the two of them on Purdue sidelines, full
Hope.
mustache.
So good.
Yes, starter
It's a
jacket.
great picture.
Is that the starter jacket one with the head
The
fin?
starter
headphones
jacket.
on?
Yep. Yes,
Oh,
that's
it's so
exactly it.
good. So good.
Hope looks
And Hope
like
looks
nut, by the
fat.
way.
No, I
Yeah.
think he looks like a big face. You don't think so? He's like kind of
Well, I thought like he looked like trimmer than he did when he was a.
dude. That guy was
So,
terrifying.
He was
Tell you,
yoked.
I was in
He was
the
yoked
press
on
room
Purdue
with
He
him
was
sidelines.
yoked
in
like
the
you would not
second-
believe.
in the second row, and I was like, I don't want any part of this dude.
So
No.
Bad dude.
Did it make you rethink the Danny Hope
You-
Twitter account a little bit?
The hopeful daddy.
No, that was a wonderful time.
That was the best.
I would never rethink that.
You want-
Go ahead, Jay.
Oh, I was just going to say you wanted us to come with. We talked offline about coming with memories of Tiller, and I don't know that we talked about this one yet. We've talked about it on the site a million times,
Yeah.
but there was nothing like for me. Okay,
Mhm.
there was of not just beating Notre Dame, not just beating Notre Dame at Notre Dame, but beating Notre Dame at Notre Dame and pasting them. Oh my gosh, 2004.
That was not a
That's-
fluke win. That was a
No.
win.
No.
Right.
So
When you just dismantle a team that was, and it wasn't like the Weiss terrible team 07 or whatever it was when they were.
I mean, it was Bob Davey. Like,
they weren't terrible. They weren't terrible. Let's
No.
put it that way. And it doesn't matter even if they were. Purdue never wins at Notre Dame, and it wasn't like they left any doubt. Kyle Orton and Joe Tiller together went in
No.
there, and
My brother was
something
at that
Drew
game. My
Brees
brother
couldn't do.
was in Notre Dame Stadium
That's
at that
that's
effing game.
Those were the two.
That's a great game.
The two
And
programs actually.
celebrating
Yeah.
at
The
the
two-
40. At the
Mhm.
40, he was celebrating and doing the choo-choo, which would have been called back today. But
Oh yeah, I love it.
oh gosh, that was. you talked about might be. I know he took him to a Rose Bowl. I know he got them to 5th in the country. That might be my absolute favorite Joe Tiller memory because. And then the picture I put it in my post today. Well, but they never could win there. It was mystical. It was like Navy beating them. Purdue couldn't win at Notre Dame ever.
You have to go back to the 60s.
And in our life, literally, you and I have not been alive for a win other than that one at Notre Dame. Yeah. The last one before that was 74.
Yep.
And so there was that, and it was. I do believe that was a, Tiller and Orton. It was like Breeze couldn't even do this, and the two of them.
No. Wait, so what
not
year
Breeze not do it. He looked horrible
game?
When he did it.
Which Notre Dame game are you talking about?
I'm talking about 04. When they won at
that was
Orton.
I thought you were talking about
41-16.
the second game of his tenure.
No. We talked about that already.
It was.
Michael, try to keep up. I'm pouring more bourbon.
Weiss had the
camera off, but
but Weiss had the what was it, the strategic advantage at that point, right?
The
schematic advantage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not
so much.
The Tiller moment for me was the one I tweeted out. So I was there at the end. So like I was on campus. So
me too. I wasn't on campus, but I was there.
The 97 season, so my family's a Purdue family, but we were mostly into basketball. Like my mom loves basketball. Like we were a basketball family. And so I didn't really like the Colts even. Like the Jim Harbaugh era was like the last year of the Jim Harbaugh, last 2 years of Jim Harbaugh was really the first time I got into football. But the first time I loved football was Drew and Tiller. But you
would have been pretty young for Harbaugh leading him to the playoffs.
That's like one of my first memories.
I was in CYO basketball when that happened. That was awesome.
That's why I hate the Pittsburgh Steelers so much. Like that's why the Steelers are still probably top 3
That, and you've probably met a Steelers fan.
Well, 1 or 2 here in Pittsburgh, yes.
Maybe 1, exactly.
So the beginning of the Tiller era was when I really fell in love with football, and I was on campus for Tiller's last game. And that last season was kind of a letdown, right? Like we were all hoping.
They weren't good. Right.
Yeah, they weren't very good. They weren't. That's the
problem. Won 4 games.
The problem is they were more talented than their wins, but they still.
To that point, Aneesh, what I always think about is I was thinking about this today. They went 4-8 that year, I believe. But Tiller still had the talent to beat Indiana 62-10.
Oh.
So that was
it could have been worse.
And looking back on
they were up 60-10 with 9 minutes left.
Oh, for sure they could have put 70 up. They decided not to.
But looking back on it, I don't know if I would have wanted a bowl game to be Tiller's last game, a game away from Ross-Ade, a game that wasn't a historic pasting of IU in front of a sold-out Ross-Ade at night. Like we would have loved a bowl game, and I was on campus. I would have loved to go to Detroit.
To roll 62 up, it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was to me it was the perfect ending for Tiller.
Agreed.
Like that was my
and I was
Go ahead, Jay.
I was just going to say I was at the 04 game. I believe it was 04 when when Orton's final game when they put up 64, I believe it was on IU, and I believe
got DiNardo fired.
Fired. And what I love about that is that the number of memorable, like Tiller put up over 60 on IU more than once. It's so amazing. And one of the things I tweeted today, there were a million things, and I love
700 yards of offense that game.
It's 762. I have a picture of it.
It's ridiculous.
62, and I don't think they got any more because they were, at that point you're like, well, this is humbling enough. But today, one of the things I love, not to take away because you guys are about to all make other points, but I'll just say this while my internet's still working.
Power threat.
Tiller went 15-9 against IU.
That's awesome. That's great.
I love that. I love the fact that he was not even close to 500 combined against He destroyed Indiana 10-2, and he was 5-7 against Notre Dame. And he was only 5-7 because towards the end he was fading, right? I mean, his first 10 years he was something like 5-5.
He was awesome, yeah.
The Chris B. Brown, national writer at Smart Football, Purdue alum.
Oh, Chris Brown's good, yeah.
I think he's like the smartest like football writer out there. And his memory was that the single worst day for Nick Saban defense I'd ever seen was when Tiller and Breeze dropped 55 points and almost 600 passing yards on Michigan State.
And that's the game. That's the game Jay referenced earlier today, where I actually came down back in town. I think Jay was a student there. My fiance was a student. I was coming back just to see a Purdue play, and it was like a gift for me. I talked about that game. It was incredible how badly Purdue beat that team. And Michigan State was not a slouch. They had a future NFL quarterback. They had Plexico Burress as a wide receiver. Michael Hawthorne, who I had African studies with at Purdue, just absolutely pistol-whipped Plexico Burress. Just controlled him. Michigan State was, what, 5th, 6th in America?
They were top 10, yeah.
I mean, and Purdue never let them think they had a foothold or a chance in hell that they were going to win, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it was such a fun game. And Tiller had something special for Saban every time he dialed up. I mean, there's a reason. You could say Saban ended up in the SEC at LSU because money, but I would say because his kryptonite was in the Big Ten. Joe Tiller was, made Saban his bitch. Well, and you can go back and look back at the games, see if I'm wrong. There's only one game that I'm wrong about, and I can remember it because Purdue had already clinched the Big Ten title, and Michigan State beat the hell out of Purdue, actually. And all Purdue had to beat was IU to get into the Rose Bowl.
I think that's how you want it.
Yeah, that's a perfect back then. Cameron's IU team.
Yeah, right. I mean, and so first, to that point, Zach Osterman was telling me that that Joe Tiller was the Big Ten Steve Spurrier. Like the one thing that faded was that you can't recruit at Purdue like you can at Florida to keep that long sustained success. Right. But to come in and program build the way Tiller did, and put aside the Florida comparison here at a school that really, like, on paper, really shouldn't have that much of a football tradition. Yeah, exactly. It's in Indiana, not really the most fertile recruiting ground. It's not really near a big city. There aren't big donors. It's not a flashy play. It's not Tennessee with these big donors and flashy facilities. It's in the Big Ten. It's not one of the marquee programs of the Big Ten. Right. But he came in and executed a program build without resources, really, that I think very few people, very few coaches in the country, in the history of college football, can say that they did. I mean, like the feat that Joe Tiller did between 97 and 2005 was.
Let's draw that back. 97 to 98.
I mean, that's it, right? Just
it's incredible, right? And let's compare it to things we know. Let's look right now. Everybody's saying Jeff Brohm might be coach of the year already at 2-2.
Yeah, I mean,
Tiller was 9-3 in his first year.
And after a similar, I mean, you lived through the Toledo years much more vividly than I did. And like it's very similar. And like that's the thing is like Tiller beat Notre Dame in his second game. He didn't do it against Toledo, but he beat Notre Dame the second game. We celebrated because we played because Purdue played Louisville, a fading Louisville, close for 3.5 quarters. Right? We played Michigan hard for a half. We're celebrating those things as rightfully we should. But like 97 was like something different, man. Like 97 is kind of, I don't know. It's one of those rare college football seasons in total.
Let me tell a small story, because this is a story I wanted to tell both of you guys, and I think I've told Jay this story, so I apologize, but I want to tell these stories a lot, especially right now. So I moved out to Massachusetts after watching Purdue. So they beat Notre Dame, they beat somebody else, and then I moved out for my first job after graduation. I think they beat Minnesota or somebody, and then they played Michigan State. And they were down for a big chunk of that game versus Michigan State, and they kind of fought back, and I think they won that game in overtime in a very improbable fashion. Here's what I remember. I had a Portuguese landlord at that time, okay? I lived in Taunton, Massachusetts, and my landlord spoke no English. All he spoke was he understood enough that he and his wife and I could exchange $100 a week cash, okay? It sounds like I was, renting an apartment in 1895, but it was actually fall of 1997. But I lived on the third floor in an old house in Taunton, Massachusetts. And when Purdue started to mount that comeback versus Michigan State, I started going crazy. I started yelling. I was watching the game by myself. I had no Jay or Aneesh or no one. My fiance was back in Indiana finishing her degree, and I was going nuts. I was just going crazy. I could not believe that Purdue might win this game. And my landlord stormed up the steps. I could hear him coming up. And he knocked on the door and he says, okay. And I said, oh, very good. And I pointed at the tube television, the Sanyo that I was watching, the 19-inch.
The RCA.
Yes, exactly.
Shout out to Sanyo.
And I pointed at it and I said, very good, big comeback. I didn't know what else to say. Purdue stormed back, beat Michigan State, right? And that season was just kind of a snowball, right? We just saw Purdue do things that we didn't think they could do. And Purdue never believed they were out of a game because of the psychological edge that Joe Tiller placed in those guys, right? The belief that they're like, we're going to win every game. We can win every game. And then they showed it, right? They beat a lot of good teams along the way, but they beat Oklahoma State with a future was it Pac-Man Jones on that team? Am I right about that? I think he was.
Yeah.
I think Pac-Man Jones was on that Oklahoma State team. I might be wrong, but I think I'm right. But every team Purdue would beat, there'd be some story, some subplot about, there was some guy who was the sizzle, right? That ESPN just wanted to make sweet love to. And Joe Tiller would just shut them down. And it would be, at some point, it would be Vinny Sutherland just talking crazy crap to a defensive back or to somebody on a punt return where he was just John, right? And then you'd have Billy Dickin come in. And you're like, Billy Dickin couldn't throw a 5-yard pass a year ago or 2 years ago, right? His shoulder was shot. All of a sudden, Billy Dickin looks like, a genius. He looks like an all-world player because Joe Tiller created this system, right? Okay, so let me talk to you guys a little bit about the emotional background about what's happened in my house today. My wife at multiple times has I had a soccer game. Sorry for the chiming. You guys know that's the deal.
Yeah.
When you
podcast, it tolls for Joe Tiller.
The chimes exactly toll for Joe Tiller. But multiple times today, my wife would walk into the room and I would be tearing up at least and kind of crying at most. And I would get to the point where I would see Joe Tiller as a symbol as my dad had a quad bypass back in April. Okay. Joe Tiller was 74. My dad is 69 years old. And some of the things that Joe said sounded like my dad. Some of the things that he does sound like my dad.
You cut on my...
Sorry.
Yeah. Your dad's how old?
My dad is 69. He graduated from Purdue in 1970. My dad effectively brainwashed me and my brothers and my sister to become Purdue fans.
Good man.
Yeah, but I mean, but I'm with you with and you know that. Like my dad will be 72 next week.
Yep.
So we're at that age. We're at that point in life where I think that's also part of this. This
it's a big part.
Hits us because it
hits me hard. Right?
Yeah.
And it hits me hard because this guy, okay, so I'm going to go and I'm going to tell you guys why it hits me hard. Okay. It's not just that Joe Tiller won a lot of games. It's that Joe Tiller became the linchpin of my family in that when my wife and I were newlyweds and we moved back to Indiana after being in Massachusetts for a little bit, we planned our weekends. Everything came around Purdue football. We were like, this game is going to be entertaining. Purdue may not win. So we would go to Ross-Ade. We got season tickets to begin with. But then we started going to road games. We went to Illinois, went to Northwestern. We went up to Michigan. We went to Michigan State. Went to Ohio State. but we planned everything about Purdue football because it mattered to us, right? Because there was a chance. Not only were they going to win, they were going to be exciting. They were going to be fun, right? And that all comes back to Joe Tiller's big plan, right? And so I said to my wife, she would find me in various states of blibbering idiot, right? And this is before I'd had a drink. I was stone cold sober. And I can tell you, I was just upset because I said it to you in your post, Jay. I said, I want that back.
Yep.
I've got 2 kids since then, right?
Yep.
Gina and I have been married for a long time, but I want that feeling back. That optimism that anything can happen. And so we're going to invest our money and our time into this program because we believe not only will Purdue win, they're going to do it the right way. And we're going to see something special.
And it's fun.
It's going to be fun.
And
it's going to be unexpected. What a great period of time. Right?
I had season tickets. Remember that?
Yeah.
I had season tickets living in New Jersey.
In New Jersey.
Season tickets. Because I was like, you know what? I paid to go to a Notre Dame game once, and it was so much money to go to get tickets.
Right.
That I was like, screw it. I could just buy season tickets. Somebody will buy a few of them, and I'll go to 1 or 2. And who cares if I waste a couple?
Aneesh, these 2 morons, okay? Jay, Jay, but the other founder, there are 3 founders of Boiled Sports. Tim,
that's right. Tim, me and Tim.
They bought season tickets so they could be there for 1 game a year.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Penn State fans do, right? I mean, I live in Pittsburgh. No, but that's what I'm saying. You can't. So you want to talk? You want to talk being a part? You want to talk big time mentality? That's what Ohio State fans do. That's what Michigan fans do. That's what Penn State fans do. That's what Texas fans do. You buy season tickets because you can't get your foot in the door any other way.
Right.
So it's like that.
It was worth it.
That status, that feeling, that excitement, that relevance. That's the thing, is that Purdue football was relevant. It meant something. When you said Purdue football, you knew, like a sports fan would know exactly who you were talking about. And you didn't have to really be that diehard of a college football fan. You could have just casually followed college football, and Purdue is that golden black team who might not necessarily know what state Purdue is in, but you knew, they have that quarterback, right? It didn't matter when you were talking about. It's like, they have that quarterback, they pass the ball.
Right.
And so we were saying for how long during the Danny Hope and the Darrell Hazel era that Purdue wins when they have that identity, when they have when they are Joe Tiller, reincarnated. Right?
Yeah.
That's what we wanted. And we knew that.
That's what we thought we'd get with Marv, right?
That's what we were all hoping. Oh, Marv under Brohm. I think that would have been a combination that would have made us proud. See, that's the thing. But they didn't have the system. He didn't have the coach's trust. He didn't.
That was a weird situation.
The magic wasn't there. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what Tiller did. It was magic. It was. He did something that wasn't supposed to be done at a school that historically probably shouldn't have had it happen. I mean, so the guys at Crimson Quarry on the IU blog tweeted out a couple series of tweets that were like, there's not many better examples of program building like Joe, better than Joe Tiller. And they said, if you want to compare it, look at IU. Look at 1997 and IU. Right. IU went for the safe, inside the program, who's your guy in Cam Cameron? And Purdue went to the Midwest and hired the crotchety old, football coach from Wyoming who won 10 games and didn't get a bowl. He had to come to a big time program, and Purdue was that one to take a chance on it, right? One team went through the best, let's say by far one of the 2 best eras of football that program has ever seen. The other school hired Cam Cameron. And it's just those are the chance. Joe Tiller was kind of everything happened by chance. Everything kind of happened by happenstance, and it was a little bit of magic. And then Joe Tiller kind of, that fire, that spark, he was there to make it into a bonfire. He was exactly what He was exactly what Purdue needed at the time. That's one of his quotes, right? Purdue was right. He was right for Purdue.
Yes.
Purdue was right for him. And I think
the silly thing
Brohm,
is,
even Brohm, even if he wins 10 games this year, 10 games the next year, he's going to leave because he should leave. I mean, like, he should leave.
No, he shouldn't leave.
He shouldn't, but
I hear what
he
you're
probably should.
Right. Joe Tiller saw this as
hold on,
Joe Tiller. This was his like.
Go ahead.
This was
this was his apex. This is where he wanted to be. He didn't want to be anywhere else, and that's a great point. Like this was his pinnacle, not apex. Pinnacle was being at Purdue and leading Purdue to success.
And despite Morgan Burke, despite his disagreements with Morgan Burke, right? I mean, his well-documented, not very well hidden.
He believed in Purdue.
No, not hidden at all.
Yeah, and so like he still stayed. He still he dealt with the BS. He dealt with the lack of. He dealt with the.
Actually, Joe Tiller, I don't think was a fan of Boiled Sports. I think he knew about Boiled Sports.
That's fine. I'm glad. I'm actually okay with that.
I know.
Every time I would talk to him, I would worry that he would figure out who I was. I'm not kidding.
We started the site in 2006, and he left at the end of 2008. So we had 3 football seasons.
Not the best football seasons as well.
No, and he sort of knew. He made remarks about the.
Every now and again, someone would say would find its way onto the webs, onto the inner tube, and we'd be like, "Did he just quote us?"
But we loved it. That old.
Yeah, we did.
That's okay. I mean, like he's not supposed to like he's not supposed to like the people at the back of the class.
Well, it's like our dads.
The problem this is before there were networks and big like websites that had tie-ins. Our tie-ins were people that were still on campus, that were managers or trainers or still on the team. And we would hear stories, and I would bring them back to Jay and Tim, and I'd say, Coach Tiller fell asleep in a golf cart at practice. And it was true.
Yes.
And it was true because the guy was tired. And I would always make this comment to Jay because Jay and our fathers are similar age, and Joe Tiller is in their age group. They're all baby boomers. And I'd say, you know what? If my dad were coaching at Purdue right now, I could see him falling asleep in the golf cart during practice.
Well, he was born in 1942. So in 2008, he was 66.
Nobody begrudges him for slowing down a bit, right?
No.
But we all said it was time towards the end. But what he did, by the way, even when he was slowing down, he was still taking him to a bowl game, which is some of these at their best effort.
Right.
In their
Remember
prime,
how mad
couldn't get it done.
What season was it? 06 or whatever the hell it was. They played 14 weird ass games.
Yeah,
they played a 13-game regular season.
Oh shit!
What was the rule there? Why did they get to go to Hawaii and it didn't count against their total?
Oh, it was bizarre. There were so many weird things happening right then. That was when the NCAA was trying to figure out the brave new world they were in the middle of, right?
They played 13 regular season games, right? And
somehow Curtis Painter took Drew Brees' record. I'm still angry.
I'm doing this from memory, but
not begrudging Drew Brees or not begrudging Curtis Painter, right?
They were at 8 wins I can tell you right now, they were at 8 wins with IU, Hawaii, and the bowl game left. And I remember you and I being like, they're going to win 10 games. And this is not a great team. This is not a great team. This is not any stretch of a great team. They lose to IU. They go out to Hawaii, embarrassed at the half, and then come storming back in the second half
and lose.
And can't freaking pull it off, and they lose, right? Yeah. Then they go, and that was the year they played Maryland in that bowl game.
Maryland
didn't even show up.
But so why was Hawaii
8-win team ever?
Why was Hawaii scheduled that year? Just because, like,
as a treat to the players.
Yes.
Oh, so like
literally. This time out.
It was after IU.
So this is the fun thing, okay? That we all know, okay? We're not going to gloss over it because we love the man, and I know Arnette Tiller is a big BS fan. We know that. Big Handsome Hour listener. So I hope she's listening tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, the weird thing is Arnette and I are attached on LinkedIn, which is really, really weird. She sent me the request. I am not kidding. That is not. I swear that's real.
She sent you a request.
It's bizarre. She sent me a freaking request 2 or 3
we gotta
years
know.
ago, and
okay, before you tell this, we got to know now, Aneesh. Before we did Hopeful Danny, Ryan, you remember this? We did.
Wait,
we did.
We don't really have many documentations that really happened, so I'm not gonna
There was,
confirm or deny.
there was a Joe Tiller Twitter feed that we cannot confirm or deny we had anything to do with, but I remember his daughter was not.
Oh shit!
Very amused by it.
Damn it!
Of course,
was not happy at all.
Of course. But you're
but it was in good.
And she was very direct and pointed.
It was not like the Hope one though. It was like
it was so much more tame.
We're awesome.
Yes, it was folksy and fun.
It was the beginning. It was the beginning of parody Twitter accounts.
Exactly, it was early parody Twitter accounts. But anyway, sorry. Go all the way back to so for some reason they scheduled Hawaii after IU.
But
like
this
December
is one of the
1st.
brilliances of Joe Tiller as a coach. Okay, is that he really didn't see the victory as the most important thing. He thought the journey was the thing. And if you talk to players that played for him, they agree with that. They said getting to the Rose Bowl was that thing, right? Getting there was that thing. And you saw Tim Stratton, who was a complete clown, warming up with the fans before the Rose Bowl. Jay and I were both there in the stands. Stratton's throwing the ball.
Yeah.
Just throwing it around, having a great time. Just, the rose was through the P. They're like, we've arrived.
The rose through the P. That was one of my favorite things. Ryan and his brother, they come out and they've got the rose interlocked through the P, and they're like, oh no.
Yeah.
No.
We've already lost.
This is not good. Oh shit. Oh man.
What was his best team? What was Joe Tiller's best team? I actually think there's a really clear there's a really clear answer to me.
What's your clear answer?
To me, I think the Orton team was like far and away, top to bottom.
No. That's the best defense. That's by far the best defense. Yeah.
Which is why all of the offenses were, even with mediocre talent, were pretty much the same. That
defense produced 9.
That defense,
9 NFL players.
That's insane.
That's crazy. And 7 or 8 of those were drafted in the first 3 rounds.
That's
what
incredible.
The hell? That was the team where you're like, Purdue was number 2 behind Ohio State in the NFL draftees. You're like, what universe are we living in? Right?
And that's the team that still pays dividends when Purdue is
right. When you talk about players in the NFL, you're still talking about that team.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. That
that's a good point.
To me, it's like that's the team that was like, what did they peak at 5 that year?
Yes, they peaked at 5th, and I can tell you that was one of the best and the worst days of my life. Because, oh man, okay, so let me. I'll give you a little story as the bells chime. So game day was on campus. It was a fantastic day. It was freezing cold before. Purdue played, I think, a 3:30 kickoff. It was so much the energy was just palpable. It was a wonderful, fantastic day as a Purdue fan. And so ESPN had all these rules. They don't tell you about this when you watch game day now. There are all these rules about what you can and can't do to get inside those gates. And I think my brother was not on campus. He was a relatively new graduate, but he had created a sign for ESPN. I had created, because I could draw, I can still draw. I drew Herb Street and Fowler and Corso and had quotes, and we were going to carry them all. We weren't allowed to do it because we weren't allowed to put the signs on a stake. But my brother created one, ESPN, everybody sucks Purdue's nuts. And for some reason, that one didn't make it on TV, which I thought, bullshit, that's freaking hilarious. And I can tell you, to this day, every time I see game day, I think of everyone sucks Purdue's nuts. Because I was like, Purdue's number 5 in the nation. We finally arrived.
Oh, shit.
So that's my peak of the Purdue.
Of the Tiller. That's
my brother coming up with that brilliant ESPN. Because all these posers do shit where, it's like the middle of the word. No. You go the first level of the word.
Yes.
Everybody sucks Purdue's nuts is brilliant.
Well, we've talked many times.
To everyone who knows me personally knows that I'm a person of faith and that I kind of get off the path every now and again, but that is still hilarious to me.
That's the best.
Nothing to do with your faith. That's a.
Oh, it's totally crass and horrible.
That's okay.
It's horrible, and it was still great.
So
it was
that season, just looking back, right? They had Orton,
so
who,
quick.
if you remember, Orton was a Heisman leader, front runner for the first few games of the year, right?
He was a story.
So
right?
I've got that. I've got the Purdue reference, the sports reference page up in front of 04 as the 25th ranked team in the country, which is ridiculous, right?
Fifth.
They start 25.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Purdue.
They win 25th.
But that was where they started. That's where they started.
That's where they started.
And then they beat the shit out of Arizona and Syracuse, right? Am I right?
They beat Syracuse 51-0. And you know what happens the next week? They're still 25th.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? They win 51-0, and they're still 25th.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So then they beat Ball State 59-7, and they move up to 15th. Okay. All right.
Why?
Fine.
Why did they jump 10 for beating Ball State? Was Ball State that respected? Nope.
Then they win.
Stupid polls.
But
Stupid polls.
this
I've talked about this for 20 years.
This I actually hadn't remembered. They played their next 3 on the road, right? So they start at with Syracuse and Ball State. They beat the shit out of them. They're 2-0. They're 15th. They go at Illinois. They win. They go at Notre Dame. They destroy them. They go at Penn State, and they beat them by a touchdown.
My brother-in-law was still a Purdue student. He went there. Charles Davis just ripped them up, if I remember correctly, right? He was a great tight end, also a future Purdue Boilermaker basketball player.
And so to me, that stretch right there is why that's the best Purdue team
exactly
in the Tiller
Illinois. Because and this is when Illinois was good, was decent. At Notre Dame, at Penn State, now they're 5th.
Drew Brees could not beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame, and Drew Brees never beat Penn State.
Right.
Nope.
I'm just saying, and this team
first in goal from the 4 versus Penn State, and was his name Courtney something? Courtney.
I know what you mean. I just can't remember.
He was Drew Brees' nemesis. Drew Brees had two nemesis during his time at Purdue. One was an Ohio State linebacker. One was a Penn State linebacker.
Oh.
And they both kind of stole his lunch money. One of them, Brees got it back.
But,
the other one, he never got it back.
But here's the deal. Okay, so that we know how that 04 season wound up. But since you're bringing that up, and since you're bringing up his nemesises, and I want to pivot to –
do we say that?
I want to pivot to –
by the way.
I want to pivot to how magical the 2000 season was, because in the Purdue athletics video they put out, which was amazing.
That was amazing.
I want to
tell you, seriously, we'd rip up Purdue athletics. They nailed it.
No, but their media group, or whatever you want to call it, they're guys who are doing videos and things like that. They're doing a great job. And
they are.
And that, although the only criticism I'd have of the one they put up today was when they said that 2000 season had things like beating Michigan with a Travis Dorsch last-minute field goal. Okay, but that Michigan game, they were down 28-10. Now, Aneesh.
Yep.
Because you were a young lad. They were down. Purdue was down, I think, 21-10 at the half, 28-10 in the third quarter, 28-10 to a bench.
Tom Brady was on the bench of that
good Michigan team. And they won.
Think about that. Wait, touch out. Let's take a sidebar. Tom Brady was on the bench of that Michigan team. That tells you how deep the talent was.
Exactly.
It wasn't a shitty Michigan team.
So they won 32-31.
Top 10, right? Like they were like
yes,
or something like that. Yep.
Yes. So that's how good. Like, I know Dorsch won it on a field goal, and that was when Dorsch was like sort of like on the fence with Purdue fans.
Mm-hmm.
And
sort of on the fence is not correct. He
was off the fence.
Purdue
win that game.
Humpty Dumpty falling off of the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
So they win 32-31 after being down 28-10, right? Mm-hmm. Which you talk about a season that you're looking at it and you're like, what the F is happening here? This is right. Then Ohio State comes to town. And I mentioned earlier that the Joe Tiller 41-16 destruction of probably my top favorite memory. This is the only thing that challenges it was beating Ohio State under the lights in 2004. In 2000,
can I tell you guys a sidebar of this story?
Gary Danielson was crying on the air.
He was crying. He cried on the air. Cried on the air.
You know that?
No, I don't.
No, and you listen to it. Hold on, Aneesh. He cried. He says That
Now,
is
you know
the
Gary
most
Daniels goes to
clutch
Purdue,
throw.
right? Yes.
Right?
You hear,
That
you hear
is
his
the
voice
most clutch
crack
throw I have ever seen.
after the
He said
throw
that.
to Morales.
Yeah.
So the clips you
Pronounce
see.
it correctly. It's
So
Morales.
So the clips you see end with Musburger saying "Holy Toledo, Seth Morales." If you find a clip that goes beyond that and shows like the replay, you hear Danielson saying exactly what Ryan
I've got
said.
the clip. I've got the clip.
He's like, that was one of the most clutch throws I've ever seen.
And he's clearly broken up.
But people don't remember. People don't remember. Purdue played that game very well, and we're leading.
And Breeze tried to give it away.
Breeze throws a pick six with
to one of his nemesis.
Was it Doss?
No. He throws, he gets
Mike
hit
Doss.
by a guy named Joe something to Mike Doss, who was later Indianapolis Colt. But he gets hit by Joe Frick. He was either a defensive end or an outside linebacker from Ohio State. He had talked shit the entire week to Drew Brees. And Drew Brees had taken the high road. Drew Brees got rocked by him. Drew Brees got up, went back, hit Doss, knocked him out of bounds. Ohio State scored 2 plays later. Brees came in. First play incompletion. Second play, second and 10. So check down. Find Seth Morales.
We talked earlier about how you have that video, letter framed in your office or in your house.
Yep.
You wrote to Tiller. One of the other things you have, and this is still again. See, I've
the tickets from that year, right?
I've already talked about my favorite moments in the Tiller era. So the Morales play. What I love, there's a photo Ryan has, and I don't know if this was in the paper.
Yep, Indianapolis Star.
But Aneesh, you've seen the Morales play, right? Morales is wide freaking open, right?
No,
if you've ever seen so Breeze explained that play in a YouTube clip that has been since taken down. I posted it years ago, and he explained it. He said he's the third or fourth, maybe fourth option.
Fourth or
so I'm supposed to look down. I'm supposed to look for the guy in the flat. Then I'm supposed to look down the left side. Then I'm looking for the guy across the middle. Then I'm supposed to look to the guy streaking down the right side. And he said, and we practiced it every week.
Player bit.
He said we practiced every week, and we never threw it to that guy.
Right.
Ever.
The Butler
transfer. And he says, when I release it, I'm thinking, oh gosh, oh goodness, don't throw over. Right. So he releases it.
And then Morales says, catch the ball.
Morales almost drops it. He almost drops it.
And then he almost trips.
And one of my favorite parts, Aneesh, if you ever get to Ryan's house again, there's a photo of this. Mike Doss, who's an NFL safety.
He's looking to his right.
He's looking over his shoulder like what? Had this guy. That's my favorite part. Is like, no, Mike, great. You're the safety. You're the safety.
You're the safety. Safety means the last line of defense against that play.
In fact, it's even in the name of your position. Safety.
Now, let me give you guys a sidebar of this. Another personal thing, okay? The reasons I love Joe Tiller. Okay. Man. So at that point, so each year my brother and I would increase our block of season tickets with Purdue. I had moved back to Purdue look at that. I moved back to Indiana the year before. We had 2 season tickets, my older brother and I. Then that year we had 3, and the third ticket was a revolving ticket. It was either my dad, my wife, or his fiance. In that game, my dad, class of 70, was in the seat with us, okay? When Brees steps back and he scans and he lets loose the ball, I literally fall down. Okay, and I'm 5'4", so I can't see over a crowd anyway. I step down and I put my head in my hands and I listen. And I can hear the crowd erupt. I never saw Morales catch the ball in person. I look up at my dad, who's above me at that point, and my dad says, "Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh." He's high-fiving my brother, and we had this great group of people because we're in our second year of season tickets at that point.
Well, you knew everybody in this group.
Knew everybody because they knew because I talk a lot and I yell a lot. And I literally grabbed the legs of an old Purdue alum. He graduated in 1969. He was just older than my dad. And I grab his legs and hug him. And everybody in our group just starts hugging each other. Right? So this game was such a unifier, right? Everybody loves each other. At that moment, we're like, I can't believe I was here to see that.
runs away. They still have to they still got to beat IU. They're nowhere. Right. They don't have it clinched yet.
Well, they had Ohio State, then they had Michigan State, what I referenced earlier.
They lost.
They got their ass kicked. I actually played pickup football that day. They played in East Lansing in snow. Purdue got their just cans kicked around the field. I don't know what the final score. I'm guessing a bazillion to 1.
It was. I don't know. I don't know, but it was. I'll look, but I think it was like 38-10 or something like that.
30
it was horrible. 10. It was 30-10. It was never close. Right. And then Purdue came back to IU, and we all thought it's a formality.
Oh, with IU under the lights.
We're gonna beat the living under the lights.
Run.
And that
under
IU
the lights
team, that IU team was pretty good. I remember that game. That IU team
weren't
was
bad.
Pretty good.
And Purdue fans were like, whatever. I mean, that's the thing. We stormed the field 3 times that year. 3 times. My little brother was a junior or whatever. I don't know. He was on Purdue's campus. My sister-in-law had already graduated. Okay. So one game, the Michigan game, we all rushed down. We tried to find each other at the end. And I was just sprinting around the field. I literally didn't care who was there. I was just running up and down. Didn't care. Hugged different football players. Don't remember who they were. Just loved being there. And looked up at the crowd at the euphoria of what was happening, right? It was a little chilly that night. Ohio State, it was chillier, okay? But that night, I found a couple members of my family. Same thing. I hugged is it Ian Allen, I think, who gave Breeze the little pep talk. I didn't know I hugged him until later because I looked at the number. I was like, wow, that's a big dude. And I found Brandon Gorin because I just knew the number, 77. Then the IU game, it was completely different. It was freezing cold that day. Like, I was wearing shorts because I'm stupid. I was wearing shorts and a long sleeve t-shirt and a windbreaker and a stocking cap. And I was so cold that whole day. Everyone was on the field after that day. And here's the deal. This is the thing. I keep saying everything comes back to Joe Tiller rebuilding that thing. Those memories that I have with my dad, right? The class of 70 come back to Joe Tiller. Me meeting up with Jay in Los Angeles before the Rose Bowl at a fear. Jay was in a wheelchair. Am I wrong about that?
No, that was the year I broke my leg in Rockefeller Center, but still got out to LA.
Wheelchair. I met him on a sailboat in San Pedro Bay. This is not false at all. This is all true.
Aneesh, I broke my leg skating at Rockefeller Center on December 20th.
He was in a cast from his hip down to his ankle.
Oh,
he made the trip.
I was there. Oh, I wasn't going to miss the Rose Bowl. Are you kidding me?
But it's all because Joe Tiller did it. It's all because Joe Tiller's vision. It's all because Purdue had the fortune. And I would love to say that Morgan Burke was a puppet master and he pulled the right strings. He wanted Bob Davie, and it didn't work out for him. And thank God we got Joe Tiller because Jay and I got to have a magical New Year's Eve on a sailboat in San Pedro Bay as we got ready for the freaking Rose Bowl.
Yeah,
I mean, but that's the thing is that the structure of Purdue. And at that point, is Burke has to get credit, even though he wanted Davie. He's still
sure. I mean, so Burke. Imagine his legacy if he doesn't hire Joe Tiller and Matt Painter.
I mean, of course, yeah.
And you can easily say about both those guys, he lucked out.
He did.
He lucked out with Tiller. One season of Division I basketball coaching, right? So, he man.
But that's what it comes back to Dowd's point is that there was a time when being a Purdue football fan meant actually making memories. Like that's the whole point of sports, right? Is to make memories with people that you care about, who care about the same idiots wearing the same jersey, right? God. Like the same colors. That's the whole point of this. It's to make friends randomly with people that you would never talk to in your entire life because you have that one thing in common, and it's in this case it's Purdue football. Right. It's meeting somebody randomly in a bar. So this is what I did. I was in Boston, and it was like
better when you're at distance, right? Because you can relate. Both of you guys can relate at this.
I moved to Boston, and I didn't really know at the time. Like I had one friend that was moving out later, but I didn't know anybody. And I just kind of Googled sports bar, and I like walked through. fun, right? Which later has become my favorite bar in the entire world. I love that place so much. But I just Googled it and I walked over there, and in Somerville, shout out to Parlor, and they're not the biggest college football fans. There's college sports fans in Boston.
Oh no!
But I met somebody there.
The Pats are wicked pissed though.
Yeah, that's right. I met somebody there who's a Michigan State alum who's from southwestern Michigan, and the first day that I think it was like the third day I was in Boston. The first day I really went out. We talked about Joe Tiller football the entire night, and it really became like, okay, I think this Boston thing's going to work out. That bar became my favorite bar in Boston to go watch the Pacers, to go watch Purdue. That's where I watched the Glenn Robinson buzzer beater in basketball, like the Michigan one, the Michigan game. Like that was the time that I was in Boston, and like I would default there, and they knew me as the Purdue guy because the bartenders overheard the conversation and joined in, and I was the designated Purdue guy, and to this day they still email me every time Purdue does something. So it's like that's how you make like connections, right? With people who are fellow sports fans, you make connections over memories of teams like this, and like talking about stories, like not seeing the pass, not seeing the Holy Toledo pass, and then hugging the knees of some 50-year-old woman in front of you. It's like, that's what, we want that again. We've always wanted that again as Purdue sports, as Purdue football fans, and that's why we're so happy with the Brohm hires, because we think we've got the same guy, but it's not quite going to be the same. We know it's
right. I mean, he made a point on his video this morning that he said it was surreal that Purdue was a national story. Like, and I feel the same way. Like I remember Purdue was like the story, and game day came, and we went out to Pasadena, and it was like, I can't believe this is actually happening.
And now, to your point, Jay, your entire existence as a Purdue sports fan is summed up with quit having low expectations, right? Expect excellence, aim for excellence, quit having low expectations. Can you imagine talking about a Rose Bowl without Joe Tiller? Like, as a Purdue fan, that's not a reality. Right. In 2017, we don't have the goal of winning the Big Ten West, like a really mediocre division, really, but we don't even have that goal because without Joe Tiller doing it first. He set the bar.
He showed it was possible.
Yeah,
he showed it was possible.
He set the bar at Purdue, and so now that's the bar you have to clear. That's the bar of excellence you have to clear.
He showed that all you need is the guy who's going to be the most prolific quarterback in NFL history.
Simple. Yeah,
that's all you need.
Or a guy that gets routinely hella drunk at Iowa City bars. That's all I'm saying. You could have that guy too.
Well, I mean,
neckbeard.
I'm saying he did it with Kyle Orton. It's not like Kyle.
So he did it with Billy Dicken. He did it with Billy Dicken.
We played a bunch of. He did
it with Brandon Hance. Purdue was 5-0 with Brandon Hance.
Yes,
Brandon Hance, who went on to be a USC backup. That's it. You never saw him on the field. USC was up by 50.
Turns out blue blood backups or even starters. Brandon Hance at USC, Danny at LSU, Austin Appley at Florida.
But to me, it's just like that. We can kind of end on that. Is that Tiller set the bar. He didn't raise the bar, because the bar. I mean, like we were talking about the bar era, right? There was no bar. Joe Tiller is now. Like you have to do this.
Measure against.
He's the expectation at Purdue. If you're not Joe Tiller, you get 4 years and you're out.
Oh, I mean, we talked about how we're saying that about Brohm. We're comparing everything to 97, and the excitement is it's not because we're comparing him saying, oh, because nobody's saying live up to Joe Tiller. People are saying, hey, this is the most excited I've felt about Purdue football since Joe Tiller, since Joe. God, late 90s. Like that. That's why it's awesome. See, that's the other thing. That's why the Brohm era is fun so far, is because we're remembering a time when the only other time this was ever lifetimes. We're being reminded of that. And oh man.
Well, I asked the question earlier today. I said, I swear, Mike, pardon me, I used his first name, LBD, Little Boilerdowd. I said, I swear you have met Joe Tiller. And he said, I don't remember that. He's 11. He's a smart 11-year-old. You guys both met him.
I
said, I
by the
swear
way, you
you
need to put that picture more prominently in your video today. You just used it as the thumbnail.
Yeah, I didn't.
That's a great picture.
It's a great
picture. Melissa said that. My wife said that. She said, "Why wasn't this in the video? Why was this just?" I was like, I
just wanted to do one, and I had like 15 pictures. I had screen capped or saved, whatever. By the way, you go back and when you look at Joe Tiller, you'll find lots of Boiled Sports Archive. It's pretty cool, pretty interesting. Shows that we are the true godfather of Purdue.
That's right.
Sorry,
been around a long time.
Twisting the knife. But, yeah, we've been around a while. So, but the interesting thing is, I said, you met Joe Tiller, right? And he says, I don't remember that at all. And so I go through my the Apple computer, it'll recognize faces and I went back as far as I could with LBD. And I said, he's met all these Purdue athletes, all these different, professional athletes. And I found the picture of Tiller, LBD, and I at the spring game, the last spring game that Tiller was there.
I was going to say that must have been 08.
It was it.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, you look at the picture, and a little guy, he has no idea what's going on. No. This is the fun thing. You take your step back. The Colts were flying. There was an amazing team. They won a world championship just before that, right? And you have Joe Tiller, who's on his last leg, and Curtis Painter. We have a picture of Curtis Painter, and he's actually holding my son, which is funny. And you're like, and Tiller, who was enthusiastic, but at the same time disinterested in anything that was happening with the fans. He was like, hey, gotta get out of here, ready to go. Different guy than I saw my senior year at Purdue, right? And so the interesting thing is, you're like, okay, this is cool, The funny thing is, my son does not remember the golden era of Purdue football.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't remember it at all, right? And I don't remember before Tiller, much of Purdue being a mother and being a story. And so what's next? Does Brohm take them to the point where my son remembers Purdue as a story? I think we're starting to scratch the surface a little bit, right? We're starting to get there. But can Purdue get over the hump? Can they honor Joe Tiller's memory? I mean, Jay brought this up earlier on Twitter. I cannot wait until this Minnesota game.
Yep, I want it. We talked about this preseason. I want it.
Well, we want it for a lot of reasons, but now you want it more because this was
It's going to be a charged game. The
old ball coach, Joe Tiller, circled this on his calendar at one point and said, I'm going to come back to my home.
He was going to come back for this, Aneesh. Did you see that?
Yeah,
did you see that?
His plan was to be back for this.
Keep going, Jack.
A bunch of his 97 team was going to be back. They were going to honor the 20 years since Purdue football, which I love that they were going to honor the 97 team, which was not a Rose Bowl team. They were going to honor the team. You know why? Because they changed.
It was the start. It was the start.
It was the beginning.
Yeah.
But you and I know that. The three of us know that. But for Purdue to acknowledge 97 meant something is big.
Yeah.
Significant. And seriously hope, I think they're all still going to come back, but holy crap, is it going to be a charged atmosphere?
Oh, it's going to be a great atmosphere.
And you hope. I actually haven't heard, because I've been traveling all day. I don't know if Brohm has said anything about this or if he's had media availability.
He had a quote about it.
Yeah. So check our feed.
I hope that he really invests in that and he recognizes, because he seems really similar in personality. This aspect of his personality is similar to Joe Tiller, is that he doesn't care about what he doesn't care about. You know what I mean? He super doesn't care about what he's not interested in. And I really hope that, a quote can be manufactured here and there. I really hope that he invests and sees the parallels that at least us as fans see him as.
Right.
And
this is where, if you're, I think Aneesh and Jay, the three of us share one commonality in that we like history, right?
Yeah.
And so when you like history, you're trying to get all these parts to line up so you can say, is history repeating itself? Let's be real honest. History never really truly repeats itself, but parts sometimes align where you're like, wow, that's pretty damn cool we're seeing happening.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So maybe we're seeing a little bit of that. But one thing I can say is that so let me go back a half step. There's a kid that was in my youth group at church who chose to go and study engineering at Purdue because he's a really smart guy. He's from Fishers. He had a great grade point average. He went to Purdue and he saw the worst freaking Purdue basketball and football. Basketball was horrible for 2 years. Football was bad for 4. And we would go and we'd meet on campus. I had these excellent tickets, thanks to our pal Ed, and would give me tickets in the gold seats, and we'd sit there and we'd watch Purdue get their ass kicked. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I'd say it to the kid. He grew up an Illinois fan. I said, I'm so sorry because I feel somewhat responsible for leading you down this horrible road. But I want this kid, this young guy, he's 25, 26 years old now. I want him to see a great Purdue team. And I want my son to see a great Purdue team. And I want Sam and Jack to see great Purdue teams. I want our kids to remember it, not just conjecture and stories from their dads that Purdue was once really good, but I want them to have their own memory that Purdue can be good again, right? And that it's like, okay, this isn't, Disneyland. This is something that really happened. Right on, bro. I want it to happen for a lot of reasons because I'm a dreamer and I'm a jackass and I'm a lot of things, but damn it, I can remember the feeling, right? I can remember the feeling.
If you happen to be watching us on the stream, thank you and God bless you. And I don't know what's wrong with you that you're still watching us.
15 hours into this podcast.
But I am wearing a shirt. And we should have mentioned this at the outset. I am wearing a shirt from Martin Vintage. And martinvintage.com is where you can go to get these awesome and they're either Purdue football or Purdue basketball. Cool. They're
very soft.
They're very soft. I will say I got mine. I'm wearing mine today. And you know what I like about them? They're current in the fit of, like, for example, I wear a large, but I'm a little bit broad shoulder for a large. But if I wear an XL, I'm a little too. XL is a little too flowy on me, right? So I'm one of those guys who's right in between, right? But when I wear a large,
medium.
I'm a medium, right? I'm an extra medium. When I wear a large, it fits my torso and shoulders and guns nicely, but it's still long enough that it's not popping up and showing my fat belly.
So good.
Right. You know what I'm
so good. I love it.
You don't want your belly to hang out, right? You want them to make you look more ripped on the biceps.
Is there a way, if I wanted one of these shirts but wanted some kind of a deal,
right? Like if you were saying, look,
you can't find a deal, Aneesh. There's no deal.
There's no deal.
Wait, there's a deal.
You could, because if you enter Boiled, is it Boiled?
It's Boiled.
It's Boiled. At checkout, you'll get 10% off, 20% off?
20%.
20% off.
20%.
I should have read my copy before this, or I should have drank
a little more. 20 whole percent. That's a lot of percent.
That's a lot of percent.
And you know what's really easy? Just go to the side of Boiler Sports, and you'll see a link to Martin Vintage, and you'll be able to go on there and if you enter Boiled at checkout, you'll get 20% off. I'm not exaggerating, just because. And by the way, let me be clear: we're not getting a kickback on this. We're telling you, you're getting a discount.
Seriously, we're not. But
we're not. You're getting a discount.
No money is changing. All that we've got is shirts.
You just want to see. Here's what the deal, guys. They want to see if putting a link on our site gets them any sort of additional sales. So
that's really
good. We're counting on you.
Buy shirts from them come on. Christmas is coming. It's October. By the time it's posted, it's October.
You're a Purdue grad. If you're listening, you're a Purdue grad.
Oh,
right.
You're a degenerate. Yeah.
You're comfortable. They fit you in a way that if you're a typical 40-something American male, right? Like, it's going to fit you exactly the way you want.
What if you're 27? Still,
that is still beautiful.
that's
And
what I need.
the lady friend, she loves it. She loves it, man.
That's all you wear these shirts.
She
You've
loves the
always
shirt.
got these on.
The lady loves it. That's what I'm saying.
They're
MartinVintage.com.
wonderful. Martin Vintage, martinvintage.com.
Boiled.
Literally, we are the worst negotiators in the world
We
because
are.
the initial sponsorship was $0, zero goods.
Give us a couple shirts was our deal. Give us a couple
that's
shirts,
it.
and
That's
we'll
it.
talk about you on every
And we'll talk
podcast.
about you.
That's
Because
right.
we're like-
And I love it. They were like, "Oh, all right, we'll do that." Yeah,
Yeah, of course you'll do that. Yeah, anyway.
Of course, do that because
Anyway.
we're getting. Yeah,
Listen, back positivity. If we're gonna end this on a positive note.
they're great.
Today was an
I
emotional.
love them damn t-shirts.
Today was an emotional day. Like with Joe and you all should. I'm sure we plugged it many times, but you really should spend 5 minutes watch Boilerdowd's reaction to it. We have it on the
hell
site.
yeah.
Well, I think we'll have it on the side
I gotta be honest.
of blogs of the blog for a while.
It's on the site. I'm not gonna lie. Like let alone the Boiled Sports, or sorry, the BTN or Purdue specific ones, but Boilerdowd's reflections, it got me. It got me. I was watching it, and I said to my wife, "You gotta watch this. You don't follow Purdue the way I do, but you gotta watch this." It was so tastefully done and so well done that if you haven't watched it, you need to go listen. But surely you have if you're listening to this podcast.
Exactly.
If they're listening, it's one of our 5 or 6 listeners, and it's probably our moms.
True.
I mean,
Exactly.
right. That's 3 right there. That's 3 of our listeners.
My mom's a Purdue grad and loves Purdue, and is the reason that I'm a Purdue grad and fan. There's no chance she watches this.
Wasn't she the one who loves Michael, or is it Michael's mom who loves you?
Michael's mom loves me.
Yeah.
Yes. But anyway,
You're hard not to love.
But does she still love you, even though Michael didn't come to your wedding? I just want to call that out. I want to put that out publicly. In fact, as often as I can, I want to make a point that
I keep remembering that.
We came.
Good memory.
We were there.
You were.
Well, here's the thing. I will say in closing, guys, that in all seriousness, I can tell you that I appreciate the fact that Morgan Burke hired Joe Tiller. I appreciate the fact that Arnette Tiller was all in with her husband.
Oh yeah.
The investment they made on Purdue University is long-standing, and people like us remember. We're not gonna let that memory die. But the bigger thing is that new memories are being created all the time, because I think that actually there is upside. For once in a long time, there is upside. And Cowboy Joe, God bless you. Arnette Tiller, God bless you. And the people that made that happen and made those things happen, the players, the families, the trainers, the administration, all the people, Foxy LaFawn, who I've gotten to meet, and her son, who I sat next to during a freaking Purdue football game. Thank you guys for making the memory that we got to witness. And we appreciate it. We appreciate it. And Joe Tiller's memory won't be forgotten. I can't wait till the Minnesota game. I cannot wait till the kickoff. I cannot wait till that electric atmosphere.
I'm jealous that you're going, and I'm not.
Well, I can tell you that I am excited right now. We're a week from that kickoff. I cannot wait.
2 weeks after that, I will be at the Purdue at Rutgers game.
Aneesh, and they're going to freaking get that win, and we're going to see them rolling towards a bowl.
They better. They better.
That's right.
Big things happening. Big things happening.
That's right.
Thank you for tuning into the extra long dance mix of the Boiled Sports Handsome Hour.
BS all the time.